All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. If you've been following the news lately, you know we are right in the middle of this incredibly confusing and rapid-fire news cycle. After 104 days of intense conflict and sky-high tensions between the United States and Iran, we are suddenly hearing all these declarations that a peace deal is imminent. But as we dig into the source material and the on-the-ground reporting, we uncover something absolutely fascinating. It's a classic Rashomon effect. Basically, a situation where the exact same event is being described in completely, fundamentally contradictory ways by the parties involved. Here is how we're going to break it all down. A deal to talk, competing claims of victory, three major sticking points, the May 19th secret, and finally, what happens next. Starting us off with Section 1, a deal to talk, expectation versus reality. Okay, so to really grasp what's happening right now, we first got to clarify what this agreement actually is, and honestly, what it isn't. Because despite all the grand declarations you might be hearing from politicians about the war being over, the core of this whole development is really just an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. In the high-stakes world of international diplomacy, that is not a finalized peace treaty. It's a preliminary framework. Simply put, it's a deal to talk about making a deal down the line. It is a commitment to come to the table, not the final signature on the dotted line. Moving on to Section 2, competing claims of victory. Let's look at the huge disconnect here between Washington and Tehran. On the U.S. side, President Donald Trump came out with a really definitive tone. He stated, "We ended the war with Iran today, and they have agreed never to have a nuclear weapon." The message coming from the White House is crystal clear. The conflict is absolutely over, and America achieved its primary goal of permanently halting Iran's nuclear ambitions. But if you flip the channel over to Iranian state TV, it is literally like you're looking at an alternate reality. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi goes on air and claims that Iran is the actual ultimate victor here. His exact words were, "We are the victor of this battlefield. Iran emerged stronger out of this war." So they are taking this exact same preliminary agreement and framing it in a totally contradictory light. For them, it's domestic marketing, to project strength rather than showing any kind of concession. And look, context is just absolutely crucial here. 39. That is the number of times prior to this that the U.S. president has claimed a deal with Iran was imminent, or that Iran was begging for an agreement, only for the whole thing to fall apart or be denied. Knowing that historical track record definitely warrants a healthy dose of skepticism regarding just how permanent this current announcement really is. Which brings us to Section 3, three major sticking points. So if they are both taking a victory lap, what's actually in the text of the memo? Where do they diverge? Well, first up is the highly strategic Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. administration claims the strait is going to be completely unblocked and return freely to pre-war levels. But Iran openly insists that, sure, it will reopen, but strictly under Iranian management, and they're going to begin charging transit fees to ships passing through. Why does this matter to you? Because a massive chunk of the world's oil flows right through there, meaning this one single disagreement could directly impact gas prices globally. Next, the nuclear program, which is really the core issue of this whole conflict. The U.S. is saying it's a done deal. The program will be dismantled, and the U.S. will go in to physically retrieve and destroy highly enriched uranium on site. But then Iran's foreign minister explicitly states that the nuclear issue is not even solved in this memo. He says talks regarding their nuclear program have been postponed to a 60-day future negotiation period. Again, one side says the job is done, the other says they haven't even started talking about it yet. And finally, we have the issue of money. The U.S. is insisting on a really strict, performance-based compliance model. Basically, Iran won't see a single dime of financial relief until they absolutely prove they've dismantled their nuclear program and stopped supporting proxy groups. Iran, on the other hand, is telling its people that this deal frees up their frozen funds, and they expect half of the money to be released immediately upon the signing of this initial memorandum. The sheer scale of this financial disagreement is staggering. We are talking about $24 billion hanging in the balance here. When you look at these three sticking points, the strait, the nukes, the $24 billion, it really leaves us wondering, how on earth does any agreement survive when its foundation is built on complete disagreement? Let's move to Section 4, the May 19th secret. Just when you think you've got a handle on the fragile framework of this deal, we uncover an incredible military secret playing out behind the scenes. According to sources reporting on this crisis, on May 19th, America's top general, Dan Kane, made a secret and totally rushed visit from a NATO meeting in Brussels straight to U.S. Central Command headquarters in Florida. The purpose? An urgent, highly sensitive briefing on a massive physical ground invasion of Iran. The military's goal was to send actual troops in to forcibly seize Iran's highly enriched uranium. And the scary part is, the commanders determined this operation carried the heavy risk of a significant number of American casualties. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the tension at the heart of our explainer. On the exact same day, May 19th, the US president was publicly making the diplomatic claim that Iran was begging to make a deal. Yet the military reality on that very same day was an urgent CENTCOM briefing preparing for a deadly ground war with mass casualties. It raises some pretty serious questions about the true state of negotiations when the diplomatic rhetoric completely clashes with the military preparations. Section 5. What happens next? So with all these competing narratives and secret military plans playing out in the background, where exactly does this leave us right now? Let's check the timeline to see how this builds. In the immediate future, within days, the expectation is that this MOU will be signed. Interestingly enough, Iran suggested it might just be signed remotely, what some folks are already dubbing the Zoom Accords. Once that's signed, it triggers a 60-day window where a ceasefire is observed. But that 60-day window is really meant to pave the way for a highly technical phase 2 of negotiations. That is when all those massive sticking points we just discussed actually have to be resolved. So the absolutely crucial point here is exactly this. This memorandum is not the finish line. It is just the starting gun for a very long, very complicated path. It's literally a deal to make another deal down the line. All the highly specific details of how to implement and enforce these rules are just being kicked down the road to be debated later. And that leaves us with this massive, open question to close out our explainer. When both sides possess such fundamentally contradictory visions of the exact same agreement, are we truly witnessing the dawn of peace here? Or are we just sitting quietly in the eye of the storm before the next conflict begins? Definitely something to chew on the next time a headline declares that the war is over.